Alright, so it's been a week or two, and I've made a whole new needle cutter, and it's working much better. It's a lot quieter, it's more accurate. Hopefully this will go a lot quicker. We're going to cut a baby Bugatti. This is now running straight off of my power supply, so it's at a higher voltage. So when I power it up, we'll hear 4 beeps. Instead of 2. And we now have light, so we can see what's going on better. I'm going to power up the MPCNC. We still have the loud AC in the background. Sorry about that. It's almost 110 out today. Can't turn that thing off. One other difference is I added these, which let me square the machine before it starts, which should give better quality cuts. I've also cleaned up my wiring better, so it now doesn't drag around the ramps while it's cutting. So let's go ahead and power this bad boy up. I now need about a number 2 on here, I know. And I can check. We're out there. We're running 1,000 RPM higher than we were before. But it's considerably quieter than it was. I've also increased some of the speeds, so it should cut a little quicker as well. We'll see how it does. There's still some vibrations, but it's much smoother overall. I'm going to load up my preview over here so I can see what the cuts it's doing are. This is an engraving cut first. Well, not an engraving. It is an engraving cut, but it's a score cut. Only 2.5 millimeters deep. Certainly seems most of the noise now is just from the needle going through the paper. One of the changes is the needle is now thinner. This is a 0.6 millimeter needle instead of a 0.8 millimeter needle. So it has a finer kerf now. I'm also using a MIG tip instead of a needle inflator. So it's stiffer and it guides it much more accurately now. Also, this new cutter has 4 bearings on it that guide the needle before it gets to the guide, so it builds up less heat. That also causes less vibration. Overall, it's just a big improvement in how this needle cutter works. It's running cooler, quieter, smoother, and faster. I'm running 20 millimeters per second cut speeds now instead of the 9 that I was before, 15. I don't know, I've experimented with different speeds a couple of times, so I don't remember exactly what it was, and I know it's at 20 right now. I did increase my Z speed as well, and I increased my rapids between moves. So overall, it should cut much quicker for a full sheet. It's still telling me this is going to be a 30-minute cut for this whole sheet. This here is a full depth cut now. My needle is somewhat longer overall. So if the tip isn't quite as close as I'd like, I could still cut that needle back a little bit more, I think, and get even better results, but I really can't complain. It's doing really nice, it seems. I'm not too happy with where I've positioned the light on there right now. It's the light is underneath this part, not under here, because I didn't really leave enough room on this new cutter to put the LEDs there. At least not a strip of LEDs with them spaced that far. I can put individual LEDs on there for sure, and that'll let me tuck them in there. It's just that's going to be a bit more involved, and I didn't want to spend that time yet. But it looks like all of our cuts are working really nice. This is a big cut. This is a full body of the Baby Bugatti. Yeah, I think 3 more LEDs around the front there would make a big difference. Right now I'm getting some nasty shadows that make it almost harder to see what's going on. I was noticing some weird shadows on this cut here, and I think it's a combination of fresh oil, because this is still breaking in and I'm going a little heavy on the oil. There's a cotton ball right in there underneath the bearings inside the PLA, soaked in oil that lubricates the needle. But I think it's a combination of some oil coming out, and the plans were a little trickier to draw the G-code from on this one because of all the curves and the way that the plans are drawn for the design that they publish from flight tests. They're not continuous, so there's gaps in them, and I have to connect those gaps in ESELCAM to create the G-code, and apparently I'm not doing the best at that. I'm getting a little bit of funkiness there, but I do the best I can. It's looking pretty good. It does look like the needle's dragging a little bit, so I should either slow down my feed rate a hair or speed up the needle probably. Notice I'm not even wearing my hearing protection now. I don't know how well the camera shows the difference in noise. It's still a little loud. It's not silent by any means, but it's a lot quieter and smoother than it was before. Say I don't have much more to add. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up, but I did that last time and then I kept talking, so I never got around to speeding it up. So I'm not going to make a promise knowing that I'm probably not going to keep it. I just noticed I missed 2 little marking lines that should go along these edges that I should have put in there and didn't. Not the end of the world. They're just marking lines, not cuts. They're just to guide where the bevel goes. This is a marking line cutting now down the center of the wing. This is less than a 1 millimeter depth cut. I'm tempted to bring the camera down and show some details here, but I'm also scared to move the camera. Let's go ahead and give it a go. We'll see how close we can get into this here. You can see how accurate and clean those cuts are now, at least I hope you can. Again, these are 0.75 deep marking cuts. I'm just barely trying to score the surface of the paper with them. I still have some issues with setting my Z-depth correctly. Here you can see some of the full depth cuts and the score cuts. Go ahead and put you back up here. Hopefully that's still at a decent angle. I can't check because it's the GoPro and it's just a session, so I got no preview. I did switch up to SLCam 10 now, and I'm really liking it. It seems to be a lot smarter with how it lays out its cuts. It still does some goofy things, like it did all that piece and then it's coming down here and working on the wing, but hasn't done the interior cuts. But overall, it's not bouncing around from place to place nearly as much. I thought I had found a few new features in SLCam 10 that I was impressed by, like the ability to define a workspace so I could see my 20 by 20 on the screen, or 20 by 30 sheet on the screen, and the ability to preview individual cutting steps. But then I went back and looked at 9 again and realized those features were there in 9 all along and I just never saw them. So, always fun when you upgrade to a new version of software and find that the new features you're excited about were there before. You just had gotten so used to using it the way you did, you didn't see them. I'm just taking a look. I'm still defining this needle shape, but it looks like it's deflecting very evenly on both sides as it goes in now. Earlier this morning I hadn't put a final bend into it, and it was deflecting a lot more to the left than the right. But I went in and I put in that bend and now it's deflecting evenly and I'm much happier. Now that I have this needle cutter working so much nicer, I kind of want to put a bit more effort into making the MPCNC a little nicer. These two center rails I've never been happy with. They're a different brand of EMT than the outside rails, and they weren't quite as straight. And that's part of why I have problems setting my Z accurately, and some areas are higher and some areas are lower, because these two rails aren't perfect. That also causes a little bit of judder here and there. The outside is great. Smooth, fine. I have these in here, but I really don't need them right now. The inner two rails are where all the problems are. I'm 90% sure of that. That's weird. We decided to do a score cut on that piece, but it didn't go around and do the full cut outside. It went into doing another piece instead next. Just weird how SLCam decides to do its path orders. I can go in and define them manually, but I normally only cut 1 or 2, maybe 3 of the same plans, so it's not worth it to optimize for me. The parts don't come out and flop around like they do when you're cutting out a wood, so I'm perfectly happy with it being a little less than optimized. If it takes half an hour to cut a sheet, it takes half an hour. I'm not on a schedule. Yeah, this time it's doing the outside cut full depth before it goes back into the inside cuts. now it's going back and cutting that piece instead of finishing that piece. I'm thinking about getting brave and trying to turn the motor speed up even higher to see if I can handle slightly faster cutting speeds. Especially since I see the needle dragging just a bit already on the 20 millimeters per second that I'm cutting at now. I love seeing it go around those curves and cut them nice and smooth and clean. Showing us at 14 minutes in on what should be a 30-minute cut. Yeah, that's running a pretty cool. The MIG tip is getting warmer than my inflation needle used to, but it's not bad at all. Faster Z has definitely made the entrance and exit points cleaner overall. I see a bit of a mess here, but that's just oil. Like I said, I run a bit more oil than normal when this thing's just breaking in a new needle like this. after it finishes this spar, it's going to go do some more work on the main body, it looks like, next. Oh, what was that? I don't remember there being a mark. Oh, there was. I just didn't notice that there was a cut through that. I don't think there was supposed to be. I think that was a mistake on my part generating the G-code. There's a couple little errors where it's stopping or ending a cut just before it lines up, and that's my fault from picking points that aren't quite on the line when I prepare the file. I don't mind if it's, you know, 0.8 millimeters off. For these plans, it's close enough. Overall, I'm really happy with the change this new needle cutter is making. It's definitely improved the machine big time for me. I debated how deep to cut these pieces. These are the openings for the wings. When you leave them in until the end, I'm worried that a full cut like this is going to make them too easy to remove, because leaving them in makes it much easier to assemble. But, we'll see how it does. These were really a pain to trace because they were dashed lines, but they're curved and shaped. And kind of surprised that my last 40-minute video of this thing running got as many views as it has. It seems more popular than videos that I thought were more popular. It hasn't gotten the thumbs up, but it's getting more views. So I'm assuming that there's people out there who just like watching CNC machines run for some reason. I guess that's all I can come up with. If it is, you know, leave a message down below and let me know, because I can easily record this thing all the time and post them if that's what people want to see. If you'd rather I shut up and just let the thing run, then say so too. Won't say I will, I like to talk. But, you know, it's nice to know. I'm just blown away by how much cleaner the cuts are now. I love the way my old needle cutter did, but this one really does nice. I can still see the tip doing a little bit of vibrating down there, but not nearly as much as it was. The balanced flywheel makes a huge difference. I think being slightly shorter helps. I did cut the bottom out of the cutter just to make it print quicker and be lighter and cleaner. That might be working against me a little bit. It might make that front area be able to move a bit more. But I don't know. I can make one that doesn't have that cut out on the bottom and see if it does better or worse. Actually, I did originally do one that way. That was my first attempt at this design. That one had a few issues with it that made me reprint though. Nothing major. It would work, I think. There's just minor stuff. The holes for the bearings were a little higher than I wanted them, and the bearings didn't have, there's little nubbins printed on there to stand the bearings off. And there's actually something I want to change on this one still. The bearing should be, either this bearing should be out this way a bit more, or these four should be that way a bit more. Probably the bottom four should be back a bit more, because the needle's going to go where the needle's going to go through the guide. I mean, I could move the guide forward a bit and the top bearing forward a bit, or just move the four bearings back. But the point is, it's not riding in the center of those four guide bearings. It's riding a little closer to the back. I also have some even thinner wire I could try for a needle. One person supposedly had success with the really thin wire. It just seems too thin to me to even use. We're almost done. There's only 4 cuts left. This one and I think the next one are both just marking cuts. I'm sorry, 5 cuts. And yeah, they're all just marking cuts. So it died now and didn't finish them. This would still be a usable set of plans or kit. One sheet kit. I did rearrange the parts from the original plans just to fit them on here a little nicer. Leave most of the open space around the edges so I have more room to pin down. Mark the CG slots. And it's just got one more marking of where the one that mirrors this to show where the bevel goes. And then it should be done. 27 minutes. Not bad. SLCam was actually estimating this as taking 30 minutes and 28 seconds. So the machine's running a little faster than predicted. And there we go, it's done. I just reset, it's declared it a 27-minute cut. And there we go. We have a full set of Bugatti plans, and I am happy with the new cutter. I hope you like it. If you do, of course, you know, thumbs up, comments, subscribe, all the good stuff that everybody says. Check out my thread. Check out the big thread on the Flight Test forums. I'll link it in the description. That's got all sorts of information about these needle cutters. And it's definitely worth checking out. And I hope more people build them, because they are cool, they work, and this is a little more complex to build, but very much worth it. Very much.